And straight ahead on The Pulse, find out how a local organization is helping to combat child abuse. Stay with us. We are back in a moment. Welcome back to The Pulse of St. Louis. You know, Lutheran Family and Children's Services of Missouri is working to prevent child abuse and neglect throughout the state. Joining us now is Mike Duggar. He is president and CEO of the organization. And Mike, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
Now, your organization provides a wealth of programs for families and children. Let's begin the conversation focusing on child abuse and neglect. How is your organization working to protect children in Missouri?
Well, one of the things, before we get started, I have to say that this community has been so supportive through the pandemic, the social unrest, and I really want to make sure that I say thank you to MHB, Mental Health Board of St. Louis City, St. Louis County Children's Services Fund, the state of Missouri itself. There are so many people like the United Way that help us take care of children and families in this area. So I need to say thank you before we get started. It's been a very, very difficult time for the children and families that we serve. It's been very difficult to transition over to more of a virtual type of program. But we have 6 core programs that we have at Lutheran Family. We have adoptions, we have parenting, foster care, Hilltop Child and Family Development Center, we have behavioral health and prevention services. And of course, all of those services have some element of prevention when we're working with children and families. So at the basic core of what we do is build relationships with the children and the families that we have, and we take care of them if they can't be taken care of by their parent. We have parenting classes for moms who might be struggling, who might be under a lot of financial stress, who are dealing with a lot of difficulties in their life anyway. And then you have social unrest, you have financial crisis that come up, and they're already just really having a hard time. So we come alongside of them. We try to provide anything that we can do to decrease the stress in their life, and that's across all of our programs.
And so what do you do to help decrease that stress?
Well, I think it depends on the situation. Let me give you a couple examples. So one of the things that we have done recently, and this is allowed us by the other funders that I mentioned beforehand, we had a mom who was in a domestic abuse situation, and we were working with her. We had to get her out of that situation, but she had nowhere to go. So we provided furniture. We got her moved into an apartment. So that is just as a basic, getting them into a safe situation so they can actually take care of their kids. In foster care, we have kids coming to us all the time, and one of the big concerns that we have moving forward is the state. The number of calls to the state hotlines has decreased substantially because the kids are not in school. We're really concerned about what's going to happen when schools reopen. So we're going to see more kids coming into care, but we take those kids in those situations and we provide them with a safe, loving home until they can get back with their families. So those are just a couple of examples.
Okay, so let's break this down in 2 different categories. In terms of child abuse and neglect, are we seeing that situation escalate amid the pandemic?
Well, it's hard to know because most of the calls are coming from schools. The kids haven't been in school. So you're going to have, and that's what the state director, there's a new state director for Children's Division, that's what his concern is. And if you look at the national research, that's really what the concern is moving forward. Of all these kids have been out of school, they have not seen their teachers, they've not seen their coaches, they've not seen social workers, therapists that they can reach out to, or that the teacher could see that there are bruises on a kid. So they haven't had that interaction. Now they're going to come back, so that's why we're anticipating to see a spike. But I believe the number was a 55% decrease in the number of abuse and neglect cases in the state of Missouri over the last 4 or 5 months.
Okay, so tell me about the protocol, what's going to be in place once school starts, and if you start to identify children who have been abused, what happens then?
Well, what happens is that there is a 800 number that people can call, and we're all mandated reporters. Teachers are mandated reporters, therapists, social workers, anybody that works in a childhood development program, that they make a phone call, and it's a professional referral. Then the Department of Family and Children Services from the state, they will then open up a case and do an investigation on that. So it's our responsibility, it's everybody's responsibility. If you suspect a child is being abused or neglected, pick up the phone and make the call.
I think you're absolutely right. We all have a responsibility to protect the children. Now, the second issue that I wanted to bring up, because you mentioned it, we were talking about it, is domestic abuse. Are you seeing an increase in domestic violence right now because of COVID-19?
We're not getting a lot of information on that. I mean, sadly, it happens all the time. So, but a spike in that, I'm not getting a lot of data from our therapists, our social workers on that. We are seeing cases, but this is something that we see that's ongoing. Now, I suspect that it's happening, but because of all the issues going on with the social unrest, the pandemic, it's probably not being reported as much. Maybe the moms or the parents, they don't have anywhere to go, especially now since they might have lost their job. So that's something that we don't necessarily have a lot of data on, but I'm anticipating that we're going to see that probably over the next 6 months to a year, continue to see that rise as well.
And speaking of job loss, does your organization provide any type of financial assistance for families that are struggling?
Absolutely. That's one of the things that when we talk about preventing abuse and neglect, a lot of times you're talking about a mom does not have a place to live, or their lights are about to be turned off. And if they don't have a place to live, or if their lights are about to be turned off, somebody can make a call and their child's removed from them, and they're not abusing or neglecting their kids, they just don't have the money. So one of the things that we try to do to decrease their stress is provide some financial assistance. So either pay for their rent for the month until they can get on their feet, pay to get their lights turned back on, give them some money for groceries. I mean, we try to do it at the individual level, the family level, but we can't do it alone.
Oh, absolutely. And it definitely takes a collaborative effort among all of those organizations that you mentioned and the community working together to protect moms and protect children. Yes. And then we talk about moms and we talk about children, but we rarely talk about dads. I mean, dads have responsibilities in their families as well. So, yes. So go ahead. I think I touched on something that you want to talk about. That's fine. Let's go.
Well, it's something that we constantly want involvement. And once again, we've got 6 different programs, and you can't lump everybody into the same situation. We have dads that are so much a part of their children's lives and love their kids and are actively a part of our parenting program. Then we have some dads that are just not a part of it, and we would love them to get involved, but kids need somebody to be crazy about them. It doesn't matter if it's a mom, a dad, a grandmother, a grandfather, an aunt or uncle. Kids need somebody irrationally, emotionally invested in those kids. So we need more people crazy about kids, regardless if it's the mom or dad, but we definitely need the dads to participate as well.
Well, I'm glad you and your organization are crazy about kids and families, and we thank you so much for what you're doing in the community. Mike Duggar, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much.